In my family, there are a number of very talented crafters, and that's what this essay is all about. I've called it Quilting Without a Bee. So if you are of a certain age, you may recall the folk song Aunt Dinah's Quilting Party. In the sky the bright stars glittered, on the bank the pale moon shone, and 'twas from Aunt Dinah's quilting party I was seeing Nellie home. Conjures up all kinds of images. Quilting. The word quilting. It's used to describe the process of joining two layers of fabric together with insulating material in between, either through use of a sewing machine or more simply by using needle and thread. This technique has been used down through the ages to create raised 3D effects on everything from bed covers and clothing to upholstery and accessories. From what I've read, quilting bees were very popular in the 19th century and have continued well into present day. A bee being just another word for social gathering or party. Typically, small groups of women gather to form a quilting bee and meet at regular intervals to sew blocks of fabric for each other and make quilts. If you've ever been to a Mennonite quilt auction, you'd soon realize that a quilting bee is quite unlike any other social gathering or party. The old adage, many hands make light work, pops up when you behold their finest of the finest collection of utilitarian art for sale. Nellie's aura from Aunt Dinah's quilting party floats about, while whispered conversations surrounding her contribution of stitches, pieces of fabric from her grandma's old house dress, and her constant tardiness on account of her new bow tease the imagination. Patterns and squares of fabric passed down and across families and communities are on display. It's easy to conjure up a tableau of networking, tattling and criticizing the tidiness of stitches or lack thereof, along with recipe sharing and planning end-of-season canning days, all of which fed and indeed continue to feed the industry of quilting. Gatherings of young and old, working together to make wedding gifts, stage fundraisers, and provide warmth for one and all, have created a colorful history as well as an ongoing story linked to the fabric of life. Today, in these COVID times, the sewing and design of facial masks and social distancing dominate much of our time and space as we try to navigate our way through colonies of germs and unfamiliar territory. Nevertheless, several months ago, I was delighted to receive an email from my cousin along with a photograph of a truly splendid quilt she'd made. While I'm a great admirer of quilts, I've always been overwhelmed by the enormity of the task and therefore have never created one of my own. When I called my cousin and asked her what inspired her to start a quilt and, stick it with it to the end, she kind of shrugged, saying, "I saw a picture of a quilt and just thought I'd like to make one." At the time, she continues, our bedroom was blue, so I bought, several blue fabrics and thought, yeah, that'll work well with my decor, but what it needs is a punch of orange. So she bought more fabric in a melon-colored orange. I myself was curious about any roadblocks or hurdles along the way and asked if she had any special stories to tell. At first she said no. So I went on to mention a TV program I'd seen depicting Edwardian England. It featured a woman demonstrating how to make a quilt from heavy gauge paper, brown paper, with a cotton batten filling, right down to demonstrating the getting in and out of bed. Wow, the crinkling, shifting, and noisiness of it all gave rise to quite a giggle at the time. With that prompt, my cousin suddenly began to describe the fabric of her beginnings. She'd started out designing a quilt for a double-sized bed. As time wore on, she went from a double to a queen-size bed. Luckily, she says, I had bought enough material, enough for a small add-on, she explained. Hence, the rejigging and shifting of pattern and filling was doable. But from my perspective, a big headache and not something I would have taken on, ever. I would have just called the Toronto Shopping Channel and ordered the latest machine-made quilt. So I go on and ask her, how long did it take from start to finish? Well, she said, I started in the 80s and finished in 2021. Of note, without a quilting bee. She goes on to say, life, family, and work got in the way, so it was just packed away for many years. She continued, in making the quilt, I had to ensure that all patchwork pieces were exactly the same size, or else the pattern of squares wouldn't line up. It was very time-consuming. Nowadays, you can buy pre-cut squares, which make for a much easier process. She said, I'm calling this my COVID quilt. She announced that with a hearty chuckle because, she said, I finished it in my COVID downtime. Wondering if she'd ever make another, for a birthday gift or some other occasion. I posed the question. Not missing a beat, she said, no, because it's a lot of work and I just don't think I have the patience anymore. Then with a guffaw, she said, it took me so long to make the first one, I don't think I have another 40 years left to make another. I thought to myself, wow. Then out loud, it's truly a great accomplishment, which I meant in earnest. COVID is like a deadly tornado whirling all around us, separating us and leaving a devastating swath of loneliness and shrouded activity throughout communities across the globe. Still, though, I say, it cannot suppress the human spirit in its pursuit of creativity, beauty, and industry, with or without a bee.